I like fighting at heavyweight. The lack of a weight cut's really cool. uh, it's pretty fun. I can push a lot harder for later into the camp, which is really nice. And uh, I think I'm going to be a lot more powerful than I've ever been before in this fight.
Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
All right, Julius. Man, the first thing I want to start with, right, is you're a fighter, but you're also a financial advisor. Is that right?
Yeah, that is actually what I do during the day. I was in my amateur career. I was in college, and I just graduated. So this is a kind of my first career post college now.
Well, I think that's gonna come in handy, right, as your career furthers along, right?
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, I don't make some of the same mistakes some of these guys are making. Right?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think a
Yeah,
lot of fighters are learning from the fighters from 10 years ago, just how they took their career and the path and just choices,
definitely, definitely. You see that. I think you see that across the board with athletes as time goes forward.
And earlier this year, you
Hmm.
made your pro debut.
Yep.
How did you feel about that performance, man? Ground and pound finish in the first round. Kind of in the closing, seconds or closing minute. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
always interesting to see that. You know what I mean? Did you feel like an urgency to like go after that finish because you felt
Um,
like there was not enough time? Maybe he would have got saved by the clock or anything like that.
I could just kind of feel like I was there was the resistance was lowering on his part. Like you kind of there'll be a point in the fight a lot of the time where guys will start they've gone from every little thing's difficult, they're fighting everything, they're moving constantly, to they're just kind of laying there and taking it. And that's kind of how he transitioned. And I was like, man, I think there's a window for a finish here. I've still got a little bit in the tank. I'm just gonna unload it.
Mhm. Yeah, man, perfect decision, and you get the stoppage. When going back to what you were just saying, man, like
Hmm.
you kind of like broke his will. Do you feel like that could be the term you could use?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. I think I'd say there was a big size difference in that fight. He weighed in at 198. Don't think he cut much weight, if any. So I definitely had a big size advantage there. And yeah, his they say exhaustion will make cowards of us all. And
Yeah.
I think there was a little bit of exhaustion going on there too. So
Yeah, that's that. I don't think that is echoed enough.
yeah,
Exhaustion, fatigue, it makes
uh,
us all cowards eventually.
yep. I don't care how tough you are when you're tired. That'll change you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. The openings come, right? If you're actually in a fight, you're
Yeah,
tired. You cut corners, or you just can't even cut the corner, and then next thing you
exactly.
know, you're not doing so well. You're on the bad
Yep,
end of a result. Um,
exactly.
so that fight was at light heavyweight, and this next
Hmm.
fight coming up is at heavyweight. Is there a reason for that?
Um, I I I would prefer to fight at 205. Um, that's kind of my more typical weight class. Like I had, man, I just couldn't get a matchup at 205. Honestly, uh, I wanted to fight in my hometown, to be able to sell more tickets. Honestly, and they I had a few guys at 205. Things fell through. Nothing was sticking, and I'm down. Like I'm down to fight at heavyweight too if it's the right opponent. So
Yeah.
I said, let's go.
Yeah, you gotta. I guess you gotta take the opportunities where they lie, because
Exactly.
sometimes it's not good to have a hype early on, because that hype could, like, I guess, throw matchups away from you, because they're like,
Hmm.
hey, there must be some reason. Maybe I've got to steer clear of him.
Yeah, yeah, and people. I think another thing too is people don't want to. They don't. Whenever you're, I'm only 1-0 as a pro right now, so It's not necessarily like an attractive record if you look, oh, he fought a 1-0 guy and lost, you know. So that I think that plays into it a lot. I was definitely down to fight whoever at this point. I'm kind of at that point in my career where I'm like, people have to tell me, man, you should be smart about it, you know. But I uh I like fighting at heavyweight. The lack of a weight cut's really cool. It's pretty fun. You know, I can push a lot harder for later into the camp, which is really nice. And um, I think I'm going to be a lot more powerful than I've ever been before in this fight.
Yeah, I think there could be a misconception, right? Like, you fighting at heavyweight, it's like, oh, he's just fatter and he's fighting. No, it's not that way, right? It's like you probably walk around at a pretty decent weight to where you're pretty shredded at that weight, even without
Yep,
cutting.
exactly. And I'm definitely. I mean, you know, I'm not as cut up as when I'm fighting at 205, but I think for somebody at what I'm weighing at right now, I'm definitely lean. You know, I'm not going to be strolling in there with a gut.
Yeah.
And I also, man, the speed at heavyweight, because I fought 3 or 4 times at heavyweight now, and as an amateur, and the speed is those guys are. I mean, I don't like to, you know, try to be one of those guys that's talking crap, but it's just the slower weight class. You know, a lot of those guys are they're very powerful and tough, but some of them, you know, are just a little bit slower. And I think I'm pretty fast for that weight class as well. So I think we'll see.
A perfect example, I believe, at heavyweight, that was kind of a smaller guy, but his speed just, trumped a lot of things, which was Cain
Mhm.
Velasquez. His
Oh
gas
yeah.
tank and his speed, right? Like you noticed
Hmm.
it. Have you watched a lot of his fights?
Yeah, for sure, man. His cardio, you know, pressure, pace. A lot of those guys just can't deal with it. And another thing, man, is when you put a heavyweight on their back, like they're almost like turtles in a way. Some of them. So I'm pretty confident in my grappling, and um, whenever at the heavyweight level, it's just lower. And that's not to say that Cain is not an incredible grappler. Obviously, you know,
Yeah.
Cain dominated, you know, some of the best grapplers in the world. So that's that's definitely somebody I'd hope to replicate, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a new generation too. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like Kane comes from a different generation of fighters. You got
Yeah,
the next, group of light heavyweights and heavyweights that are just like athletes on top of, Kane was that, but like it's another level, right?
yeah, and I think he came at a time whenever he was coming into a new generation, you know, fighting, you know, guys like Big Nog, and that generation was going out and he was coming in. And I definitely agree with that as a younger guy. And you see, like I when I get into MMA as a kid and just seeing the changes, I think especially since COVID, it's so many more people are just going to a local gym and trying out jujitsu now. You know, people realize that that's a thing. I know in my area in Springfield, Missouri, it's grown a ton. So it's definitely an evolving generation. We're going to see a lot more guys that are coming over from other sports doing MMA, and I think that'll be pretty cool.
Definitely, definitely cool. And yeah, you see it in like even on like social media or like on YouTube of like street fights, and you see guys like fighting like they really know how to fight. You're like, yo, like you don't want to run into
Yeah,
those guys in the street, right?
yeah, man. Some of these guys are like shooting double legs out there, throwing body kicks. I'm like, wow, got to be careful out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, it's like everybody was a boxer. Like nobody threw kicks and nobody tackled anybody, right? Unless you were a wrestler, but you know what I mean? It's so advanced now, the generation coming out. Let's go back to your fight, Synergy FC 8. It looked like you were scheduled to fight Eric Braley. What happened with that matchup?
I never even got like a. I don't even know. As far as I think that guy kind of. I don't think he really wanted to fight with me. Not once again, not to be one of these guys that's talking crap, but he kind of. I don't know. I don't want to say I don't want to speak for him or anything like that, but I don't think I. Whenever I received that matchup, I accepted it, and then literally within days, they're like, "Oh, now you're fighting Huggy Bear," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like I think he must have been on some. Oh, yeah, I'll fight him, but this, that, and the other, and they made the right decision.
I've seen in the fight game like you just explained your situation with that matchup. You're not trying to talk for him, but I've seen it many times,
Yep.
many times where guys get matched up and pretty much they signed a contract and then they didn't even research the guy that they're gonna fight, and then once they sign the contract, they go and watch, and then somehow mysteriously
Injuries
something
start
happens.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It sucks to you have to deal with that as a guy that's coming up. You know what I mean? Because you just want to fight.
Yeah, man, in my first year of fighting, because dude, my first fight was in January of 2020, my amateur debut. So that was right before COVID started, and then COVID hit, and I remember my second fight right before it was supposed to happen got canceled because of COVID. And like I've got those funny stories. I had a dude. I was supposed to fight a guy one time, and we showed up for weigh-ins. This dude, he texted me on weigh-in day talking about he can't make weight and stuff, and I was like, and he said he had to get on the hospital, go to the hospital, get an IV because weight cut was so bad. And I said, dude, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm driving down here. I'm driving 4 hours, so let's fight.
Yeah.
And, he weighed in and everything, and then we show up on fight night, and I saw this guy there the night of the fight and everything. Like, we get there 2 hours before the show starts. I was the second fight. It was supposed to be my second amateur fight. And, we go back for our physicals, and at that set, somewhere in that span of time, he just left.
That is the worst, man. Like all the way to the point where the show's starting and then the person disappears. But it's all lessons learned for you. I think it's also like adversity and things that you need to overcome because it's gonna come again, right? This is the fight game.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you got to be more concerned about getting better than getting the results you want necessarily in the cage. Focus about getting better, being in shape, ready to go as much as you can be. Then when the time comes, you should be able to perform.
Brian Porit, I hope I'm saying his name right. What do you think of him and his skill set? Huh?
He's I think he's an experienced guy. I think he's gonna have heavy hands. I think that he'll be tough. I think he'll be game. I think he'll come forward, trying to make something happen in the early stage of the fight, and I think that's when he'll be most dangerous. And beyond that, I mean, I definitely have respect for the guy, but coming to knock him out, I think that's what's going to happen. And whenever it does.
Do you see it like on the ground as well, or do you feel like you're gonna be able to like test some things on the feet?
Yeah, I definitely like to, I mean, I can make I make predictions, and talk about. I have a game plan obviously every fight, but you get in there and whatever happens. You got to be ready to adjust on the fly. But I definitely think that I would like to do some things on the feet if I can. I definitely think the finish there is on the ground. I definitely think that I'm the better grappler significantly in this fight. So if it does go to the ground, I don't think that it lasts very long after that. And I think that is the big reason that I'll be able to have success on the feet, because I definitely think he's not going to want me to take him down. So I think if I use that to my advantage, mix it up well, have more weapons, I feel like I have more ways to win. The longer the fight goes, I think it tips in my favor. So I'm pretty confident.
Well, you do have a lot of experience. You only have one pro fight, but your amateur career, you've fought so many times, right? So it's not like, oh, he lacks experience. I think people don't understand, like, you can't just look at the pro record. A lot of these dudes have extensive amateur records, wins, losses, you know what I mean? They have so much experience, it's so helpful. But yeah, it's always fun. It's always not fun for the other guy, but it's always great for you that you get to dictate like where the fight plays out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why you see, people say wrestling is king. It's one of the biggest bases for MMA, is because if you're able to, dictate where the fight plays. If you're the one that's leading the dance, your opponent's reacting to you at all times, and you know, you're because you obviously, if they anticipate what you do, that's not good, right? So you've got to be a step ahead, you know, and it's a lot easier to win that way. It's tough to win a fight going backwards. There are guys out there that can do it, but it just takes a really high level of skill. And I'm definitely confident with this one. I definitely think that I'm the one that dictates where it goes. I'm the one that I think we're going to do what I want to do, regardless of what happens. You know, maybe he's going to be ready to do that, but
yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, definitely. We will see, man. October 14th.
Yes, sir.
Synergy FC 8 co-main event. Yeah, man, all you got to do is just start knocking off fights, right? Just finding matchups and opportunities and get on a win streak. You're only 24 years old, which is like, it's a beautiful thing, right? As a light
Yeah.
heavyweight, you know what I mean? Not many, like a lot of the guys that you see, they're in their 30s already, you know, they're not the youngest. But you have so much time to grow, and you have an extensive amateur record, which is very helpful. Man, I'm excited to see what you can do, man. Like, I want to see the win streak, you know, roll through and see what you can do. And like, you know, when it's 2024, where are you gonna be? I'm curious now.
Yeah, man. Hopefully 2024 we're fighting on Fight Pass, and 2025 we're fighting the big show.
There you go, man.
And man, they need to. Hey, since I'm on here, they need to put Synergy on Fight Pass. Really, tell those guys if they're put Synergy on Fight Pass.
Yeah. Hey, get Synergy on Fight Pass. You know, someone needs to listen. Someone needs to listen.